Yo, what's up? So I didn't bring the speaker up here. Oh, let me go grab that Bluetooth speaker real quick. Puffing on them beats. What it do? What it do?
Connected to iPhone.
My brother from a different mother. Man, you gotta send me some beats,
Connected.
bro, or something, man. Like, cause they gonna keep banning me for copyright infringements. I'm tired of getting my channel shut down. I need all legit music and stuff to listen to. Like I said, I think Joe Rogan is there are some YouTube channels that you can just listen to, yo, for free. Mm, Flying Lotus featuring Anderson .Paak. Damn, why we can't listen to that, yo. Knuckles. Damn. I swear I really don't know what to fucking listen to, yo. I'm gonna look up all right, what's your SoundCloud? Is it Puff on the Beats? Okay. Got that napalm. Yeah, I got it right here. Lucky 12 and Common Folk. Motherfucking hot sauce. Ain't that who hot sauce was signed to? He was signed to Lucky 12, ain't it?
Interview program disconnected. Connected to iPhone.
Obviously, you're not connected to my iPhone.
Connected to iPhone.
You're not connected to the iPhone. Stop saying that. Finally. That Carolina heat wave. Oh boy, you playing around with that, boy.
I brought cake with me this time. Okay, it's going. Nigga 12, baby. Okay, it's going. Them niggas know what the business is. These niggas know how we do it around here, folks. Nigga PD, baby. Let's get it down for this nigga. Talk your shit, come on. 26 inches off the ground. Screaming right now.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that track.
Candy paint without look. I got to roll through a thunderstorm. Blazing through the flow, knocking on folks' car alarm. 612, 2 screens, 10 color flip-flop, watermelon green. Shouting that thing clean. Why? Yes, it is. Got this little red bone, wanna ride her and all her friends. Get in, we gon' get in the wind. Put a few cones and let the trumpet eat. Me and all my folks getting loose, posted up on Front Street. Who that motor me? Who that cat black? Let them Lucky 12 boys out of flow town. It's going down. If you ain't in my nigga, it's crazy, just don't come around. Drop your ass in the PD River, you will never be found. You can talk that shit, but please respect my town.
Yo, all the way from Boston. That's what's up,
It's off the ground. And got the wettest candy around town. And we smoking perk by the pound.
That's a business.
You know it.
Hey.
Hot sauce got that flow time. Boy, that chopper hold a couple hundred rounds. Mess around, you gon' get gunned down. Talking shit, talk that shit down. 7 flip-flop with the Lamborghini riding hard. I'm sitting so straight, niggas holding their nose. We riding so clean on that forest green. Hey, Wody, I know you wanna be like me. Every time we hit the block, it's like a car show. Come on, hot sauce, cat black on 24.
Really? I didn't even play anything and that shit stopped it already. Jeez.
The girls in the back slide them cold. Hey, that's the business. My niggas love them hoes. Ain't no time to hate. Congratulate all my flow town riders. Let's get that cake. And let that drop top knot with that candy paint top. And them white on white forces with them dicky red hot. Show that lean with it and drop it. And I make them throw that fatty out. Now I stop with it. I got my renegade. And we don't play no games. You fuck around and find yourself in the Himalayas. 26 inches off the ground. They got the wettest candy around town. And we smoking perk by the pound. shit, you must be dreaming. I ain't get this from rapping, got this from Triple B. It's so hard, house, and all these diamonds. Take a vacation from the violence and lay back on island. Sipping margaritas with some senoritas. Shots of Patron, got me, local La Vida. Blowing on the solid reaper, I'm feeling kinda woozy. 1, 2, 3 bad bitches and dozen cruising. Oh, we walk my home, so I got the tooling. Hit a nigga one time, leave his brain oozing. I'm straight to be the Caprice, beating like a drum line. These white folks look at me like I'm out my motherfucking. Had a meal, I'm rich, bitch. Now I ain't got no work, cause you a snitch queen. Every pistol whip through in the trunk. Next to my 12, though I'm out in the country somewhere. Now I bet he gon' tell. We ride 26 bitches off the ground. And got the wettest candy around town. Well, we smoking perk by the pound. Niggas didn't know, then you know it now. South got that flow town. When that chopper hold a couple hundred rounds. Next round, you gon' get gunned down. You was talking shit, talk that shit down. That's the business.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the business. That's the business. That's the business.
26
Inches off the ground.
and got the wettest candy around town.
Hey,
Well, we
hey.
smoking perk by
By
the
the
pound.
pound.
Niggas didn't know, then
You know it now.
okay, hot sauce out that flow time.
That's the
When that
business.
chopper hold a couple hundred rounds. That's the business. Round, you gon' get gunned down. You was talking shit, talk that shit down. That's the business.
Or just replay it.
What's going on? This is how it's doing. I ain't heard him up, you a fool. Stop on the mic, baby. Going. I brought Kite with me this time.
Black, black. What? It's going. It's going. Hey, it's going. It's going. Hey. And that's the business. Bet you know it now.
26 inches off the ground.
Off the ground.
Riding high, pimping monster truck style. Candy paint without look. I gotta roll through a thunderstorm. Blazing through the flow, knocking on folks' car alarm.
Some boy, Kalawa choose and I man a bumbo club. Bumbo club.
Yo, if y'all don't know, my man Puff on the beats, that's who we listening to right now, yo. Producer extraordinaire from the camp Common Folk. We fuck with a lot of people, man. Had the Common Folk camp, and then like you said, Lucky 12, and then motherfuckers Hot Hands was messing with, and then goddamn G-Bo the Pro, and my man, yeah, Knuckles. Like, man, it was, yo, we made that music back in the day, yo. ready to go on the wall now. Like, yeah, wet. Just hang it up. I might hang that motherfucker in here real quick. For real? Yo, she's pretty as hell, yo. I don't know about that Carolina heat wave, but it get hot in the south. But they say that heat make motherfuckers act crazy. Alright. So got that one. Oh, I was gonna say, let me see. Yo, I know too many fucking dope ass artists, yo. That's why my shit gotta stay popping, yo. Like, shit. I can't find that shit, yo. Oh my god. Stop texting me. Alright guys, I'm coming. I promise. I come. Hold on. Alright. Yo, just checking out these artists, yo. I say it's I don't know, man. I've been taking a lot of people off Instagram lately. Well, like I stopped following a lot of people. Like my Instagram and my Facebook needs to be nothing but positive artwork. Like, some food. Dr. Boyce Watkins. Try to get rid of all those commercials. She's a school teacher, yo. Always doing stuff with the youth. Artist, more art. That's my homie. More art. Like everybody I try to follow on Instagram is just 90% art. I'm gonna have it like to where it's just 100% creative people. Like if you're not posting something creative on my Facebook or Instagram, or if you're not doing something like positive in any type of way, if your shit is just like pictures of sneakers and stuff, like I'm not gonna keep following you on Instagram, yeah. Cause some people just post like random dumb shit on social media. And for a while I thought about like disconnecting from social media, but then I was like, I really can't do that because I do want my art to get out there as much as I can, and so social media is the way to go. But like I say, it can be a a tool as fun as it can be a tool as well as a toy. And if you utilize social media as a tool, like that shit'll really help you better, yo. Now all I gotta do is learn marketing and I guess like have a more active social media presence. Because I only post shit on here like every once in a while, except my Facebook. I'm constantly posting like political stuff more than my art stuff. Oh man, see, that's why I love my Instagram now. Like, I really can't get enough of this stuff. So many people doing so much good stuff, yo. All right. I don't know if these guys' channel have a copyright or if we can just replay these back. Let's see.
Begin an epic adventure in a world of warriors.
No. It does have a copyright. That's what I'm saying, yo. Everybody got their shit. Let me see something else real quick. Because I do want to listen to some stuff, but I just got to make sure we're not going to get in trouble for it. So... yeah, we can listen to anything Joe Rogan. I know for a fact, like his stuff, he said it several times that like his stuff is free.
Because they get all stuck in all this myth and superstition, and the real world is so much more interesting.
It is unbelievably fascinating when you delve into the world of quantum mechanics and quantum physics and all these bizarre things that are happening far smaller than the eye can see. You realize it is kind of magic.
Well, it seems like magic, but the fact that we get it at some level is remarkable. Because the other thing I find that makes it magic is when you realize that the world we experience is such an illusion.
Yes.
That the real world is so different. And I love telling the story of how we got there, because you see, scientists are biased and prejudiced and have, they know where they're going when it's wrong. But science can overcome those biases and prejudices and drag us kicking and screaming in the right direction. And that's why the story is neat, but it's also, lately I've been thinking in terms of politics, why it's also neat, because we need that to cut through the crap that we're hearing about in Washington. The same scientific methods of skeptical inquiry, of reliance on empirical evidence, of testing, of looking at many sources. All those things are so essential for the working of our democracy, but they're the same tools that have led us from just beginning to understand how balls fall when you let them go, to understanding the inner workings of atoms and nuclei and how the universe came to be and why we're here. I just find the story so wonderful that it's a shame more people don't appreciate it. And the best part is the so far part to me, because every day the story gets better. Unlike that other greatest story, which was written by illiterate peasants 2,000 years ago and never changes because it was just as boring then as it is now. And this one keeps changing, and we're surprised every day.
Well, I think one of the things that's important that you said is that scientists sometimes have ego problems and they have an idea where it's going even if the evidence disproves them, but that science corrects it. So I think that, like, using that explanation or using that definition, it sort of defines what's important about it, because human beings, even the most brilliant ones, are flawed because we do have egos and we are just people.
Yeah, exactly. And this story that I tell, which is, for me, actually, it was interesting because I really had to learn. I thought I knew the history, but of course, when you write something down, you suddenly realize you don't. And I had to learn it more. And you want to take some of these people and shake them and say, look, the solution's right here. You've got it. Why are you waiting 20 years? You're looking in the wrong direction. The example I was just thinking about the other day, when I was giving a talk, I don't know if you ever saw this video where you're supposed to look at these people bouncing basketballs, and you're supposed to. I'm going to ruin it for you and all your listeners if they haven't.
I've probably seen it.
Yeah, where you're supposed to count the basketballs and see how many people are, and there's a guy walking between them in an ape suit and a gorilla suit, and you never see him.
Right.
You don't even see him because you're so focused on the wrong thing. And that's the way physics often happens. We're focused on, we think the direction is one direction. We're so focused on it, we don't even realize the solution is there before our very eyes. And I think it's important because, people think that science, is that scientists and science are the same thing. And they're not. Scientists are ones, the good thing about scientists, the good scientists, is they're at least willing to recognize in the end that they're wrong. So they have these preconceptions, and the great thing about science is it trains us, there are these things we are central to our being, but ultimately we realize we're wrong and we're willing to change our minds. That's the difference between science and religion, really, is that, we have biases, we have prejudices, we want to believe. We really want to believe, just like the X-Files. But eventually, when nature tells us otherwise, we throw out those beliefs like yesterday's newspaper. That's why science is so neat.
Now, people that are listening to this are probably going, what is...
He's not a physicist. He's just like a, what they call these? A theologist, I think. But he falls in line with, like, not Kurzweil. What's the other motherfucker's name? Oh, fuck. I'm lost right now. Oh, he is a physicist. I thought he was a theologist. Oh, he is a theoretical physicist, cosmetologist, best-selling author, producer, actor, and science and public policy advocate. His latest book, The Greatest Story Ever Told So Far. I listened to him talk to the other dude. I don't know why I could not think of this dude's name, yo. Noam Chomsky. But Noam Chomsky is like, I don't even know what Noam Chomsky is actually, what his credentials are. I know he's an author, but whatever his doctorates and everything under him, like if you listen to this dude right here, Krauss and Chomsky, like how they argue their points, they make a lot of sense. You're not necessarily going to agree with everything they say, but they're able to really make good points, yo, sometimes. So I haven't seen this episode of Krauss, but I listened to a lot of Noam Chomsky. I never read any of his books, but Noam Chomsky is known to give public lectures and debates and things like that. So he does have like tons of video logs of all his talking points, yo. And I like listening to Chomsky. I don't agree with everything he says, but like I say, he's a really good speaker, really fucking smart ass dude, and he's able to make a good point. And so I was listening to some Noam Chomsky lectures and ran across a conversation between Chomsky and Lawrence Krauss, and I like how Lawrence was talking, so I started listening to some of his stuff, and like, he's a pretty good speaker, yo. And now Joe Rogan has Lawrence Krauss on his show. Yes, it has. I got banned for copyright infringements for listening to any type of audio material that I did not produce myself personally. So they like snatched my ability to live stream. I could still post the video if I wanted to, but the interactive live stream was for 90 days. And so it just kicked back in, like, I don't know, I tried it a few days ago just to see, because I really didn't have the exact day pinpointed to where I would have access again. So I just kind of like guessed it, and I tried, and it was back up. So I don't know if it came back up that day or 2 days before or whatever. And so now I have to be extra cautious to what we listen to on the stream, because that was the second time they banned me for copyright infringements. And so they say one more time and the channel is going to be deleted, and I won't be able to have access to it again. And we can't let that happen. Yo, we got over 1,000 subscribers to Art and Education, where people actually tune in to listen to some educational debates and lectures and watch some art. I find that amazing. Still to this day, I can't get over that. Like, 1,000 people actually subscribe to this channel. That's awesome. I find it fantastic even. So now we have to find a way to keep the channel up and running without getting in trouble from YouTube. Yeah, so once again, we're listening to Lawrence Krauss on the Joe Rogan Show.
Gauge symmetry, dude. You just passed over that and you said it was crazy.
Okay,
is there a way that you could possibly just
Well, I'll
give
try.
a small
Yeah,
synopsis?
sure.
Okay.
We'll try. We'll see how we do.
Okay.
So it turns out that there's a fundamental principle in nature which really was discovered by this wonderful woman mathematician, Emmy Noether, who wasn't even allowed to get a job because she was a woman at the turn of the century. But she discovered, so there's things we say, and we tell kids, unfortunately, in schools, energy is conserved and momentum is conserved. And it sounds like the Ten Commandments, like we come up with them because we like them. And now we understand them differently. We understand that everything that is conserved, that doesn't change in the world, is due to a fundamental symmetry of nature. So energy is conserved because we now understand
for the past couple of months, my job had me doing after-school programs with some kids at a local community center. Every Tuesday afternoon, we would go help the kids with their homework for an hour, and then the second hour, we would work on some type of art projects. And so the art teacher from the university and I would help the kids with their work. And sometimes I would even participate, you know me, and I'll do the same thing, same projects the kids was doing. So this is one of the kids. You see the TP. My spiral galaxy, we did this with wooden pegs and kind of like dipped into the paint with wooden pegs. And then we had to imagine what life would be like if we lived on a different planet. And so this is my Martian, picking some Martian fruit with his Martian rover in the background. Then we had to draw some birds. And so this is my bird I drew. And this is some of the other kids' work who didn't pick their stuff up. All this is stuck together. Crap. So I had to type these up. These were all the different assignments we had. Oh, they're all sticking together from those whatchamacallits. the blue dots. Shit. Nah. Get off of this. This is my other project. And geometric shapes, multicolors, and that's nothing. But yeah, those are just some of the things we did. And we did like some clay projects, and then we did making mobiles from colorful pipe cleaners and stuff like that. And we had we was having a blast. I'm sad the classes is over right now. But I gave an art class on Saturday to some middle school kids at the library in the other town. I don't know if I posted that. Yeah, I didn't post that there. Yo, every other week they change how Facebook looks, yo. I guess I didn't. Yeah, cause I don't know. I'm kind of iffy about taking pictures of my students and putting them on social media. But the library, they actually, Joe Biden. Yo, I was gonna vote for you, bro. I was, but then I remembered that I don't vote. So it's, you know what I'm saying, between you, Andrew Yang, the black dude from Jersey, and the white lady who talking about paying reparations. I can get behind y'all. Everybody else, hey. But yeah, this is a picture that the library posted on their Instagram. You can see my little students painting up a storm over there, boy. Yes, sir. We getting it in. And they were like, the one lady was like, "Oh, I don't think they're gonna be ready for painting." I asked them kids, I was like, yo, y'all like art? They was like, yeah. I say, y'all know how to draw? They was like, yeah. I say, you know what? Y'all must be really do like art if you come to the library on Saturday to take an art class. And that's what I'm already telling these ladies, yo, if these kids want to do this, they already really like that shit. I mean, they probably already drawing and everything. And so, and two of them came in with sketch pads. And I seen their stuff, and we went over some of the basics, the fundamentals of art. You know what I'm saying? The line, the shape, form, space, value, texture, color. Everybody knew all their primary colors. What colors made what? I was like, y'all ready? That's the, you know what I'm saying? We ain't got to come here and take notes and trying to study. We came here to paint. And so they were excited. And the one girl, she kept her jacket on, and I was like, yo, you don't want to take your jacket off? She was like, it's cold in here. And to me, oh shit. To me, man, I was in there sweating. I'm like, it's hot as hell in here. This little girl talking about she cold and won't take her jacket off. But then She wound up getting some paint on it. I was like, see, I told you. And I told him too, I was like, yo, next time y'all come to art class, this is art class. Don't wear no good clothes in here and your nice jacket. Like, she had a little bit of green paint right on her sleeve. I was like, told you to take the jacket off, yo. But like I said, she said she was cold, so. Oh, this was one of our other projects we did too. Making our bags with our initials on it. That was dope. So everybody got their own little tote bag, and at the end, like I say, we all the projects we did, everybody was able to take all their projects home and carry it in their little bag and have some snacks. It was dope. It was hot, son. All right. I just picked up a commission, I'm pretty sure. It's gonna be my man's second painting he done got from me, yo. That's what's up. And he don't be wanting no little paintings neither. He be wanting the big paintings. I'm like, damn, bro, you want the big one? He said, yeah, I want another big one. I'm like, all right. That's what it is, though. I gotta probably get started on that tomorrow. All right, let me you've been in here for 46 minutes. Now we got to do some painting for a minute, and then I got to eat some dinner and watch Game of Thrones, because I ain't see it last night, man. I was so tired last night, I fell asleep on it. I ain't gonna lie to you. Ghost Recon got another game coming out? Wait a minute.
Hey, Joe. Welcome. Thank you.
Great to meet you. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Sam Harris sends his regards.
Yeah, Sam's a beautiful man.
He is. I love that guy. And he's one of the reasons why you're here. So, universal basic income. This is what this is all about.
Yes. Yeah, that's what my campaign for president is all about.
That's an interesting focus of a campaign, and very unusual. And I mean, 4 years ago, you'd never even thought that would have a chance at all. But this is a subject that has been gaining momentum, and I made a big shift, because I had my friend Eddie Wong on once. He was the first person to bring it up, and my initial knee-jerk reaction was, get the fuck out of here. Like, universal basic income, just going to give people money, they're just going to be lazy, nothing's ever going to get done, that's a terrible idea. And then I started paying attention to the rise of AI and automation and how many jobs are going to get taken away. And then once you see the actual numbers, it's staggering.
Yeah, that's how I got there, Joe. Like, I spent the last 7 years running an organization that I'd started called Ventures for America. And we helped create about 3,000 jobs in Detroit, Cleveland, St. Louis, Birmingham, New Orleans, other cities around the country. And I saw that we're pouring water into a bathtub that has a giant hole ripped in the bottom. And that for every 5, 10, 50 jobs that my entrepreneurs are going to create, we're going to lose 5, 10, 50,000 jobs.
It's not something that people intuitively suspect could be a real issue either. It's one of the ones where you kind of have to go shake people, like, hey, look at this. This is coming. There's a cliff. We're going towards this cliff.
It's darker still in that. So when I was digging into the numbers, I found that it's not this cliff that we're heading towards. It's actually more of a curve that we're on. But what I've been telling people is that we're in the third inning now, where one of the main reasons why Donald Trump won in 2016 is that we automated away 4 million manufacturing jobs that were based in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, Missouri, Iowa, all the swings.
Yo, I live in Pennsylvania, and now this is something I talk about this stuff a lot too, man. This automation AI, yo. I swear, bro. Like, it was so weird. Like, I went to I shop at Walmart. I know they're, a big corporation, blah 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 blah. Man, that shit cheap, yo. But anyway, I went to Walmart to get something, whatever, one day. Went there. I hate the self checkout just because it's weird. You making me work. Like, I don't work here. Why should I have to check my stuff out and bag my own stuff, yo? Like, I hate doing that. And so I stand in line and I wait for a cashier to ring me up. So I went there, got whatever I needed, and went to the cashier and came home. And yo, like, I went back to Walmart like 2 weeks later, just 2 weeks. I went and I needed a pot, yo. I was gonna cook some crab legs, but I need like a big pot. So I went to Walmart, go get a pot. Yeah, I walk in there, I walk right past the self-checkout line, going to the cashier line. I look, the cashier line is a self-checkout. I keep walking. Yo, they took all the cashiers out and made every line a self-checkout line, yo. I was like, what the hell? And there was only 2 live cashiers in there all the way to the end. They only kept 2 actual, like, cashier stations. And they ripped out everything else in like 2 weeks. They took all those shits out and put all the new fucking automated self-checkout lines in that shit, yo. I was like, how many people just lost a job there? Oh, it's actually making more jobs. And I'm like, how? What are you talking about? But that's the shit that I see. And there's this other like gas station place up here called Sheetz. And Sheetz don't have really bad food, yo. It's gas station, like, I don't know, it's like a kind of like a diner almost, but not really. But their salads are pretty good. Their chicken wraps are pretty good. And they got this smoothie that I like to drink. But you go in there and you don't order. There's like nobody to take your order. Everything is like the little touch screens now. And that shit's getting more popular and popular everywhere. Like, you don't talk to people to order your food. You type that shit into a goddamn screen. Yeah. Yep. They track everything, yo. And they say in Sweden they got some stores where it's I don't know, a card or a chip you carry or some shit like that, and you just walk in the store and it reads whatever, digital account pass that you're carrying with you, and there's nobody in the store. There are no employees there. It's just stock full of stuff. You go in there, you get a bag, you take what you need, and you walk out, and the store scans you and it charges you by what items you pick up because everything is fucking chipped with the RFID. Even like, we're basically all chipped. I say, if you look at your debit cards, your bank cards, your chip is right there. Most people don't even swipe their cards anymore. You don't have to swipe it. You insert your chip. That's crazy.
And a lot of that was just manufacturing work. And if you go to a factory, you'll see it's just giant robot arms as far as the eye can see. So it's not just that you have artificial intelligence on the horizon. It's that we've been eating away at the most common jobs in the U.S. economy for almost 20 years now, and it's just now hitting a point where it's pushing more and more unskilled men in particular out of the workforce.
Now, are there other alternatives that you've considered other than just universal basic income, like educating people about this being a real issue and perhaps pushing them or directing them towards other occupations?
Yeah, so that's the recipe that most people are attracted to. So I just want to unpack the numbers a little bit more so people have the sense of it. I was just with a bunch of truck drivers in Iowa last week. There's a guy, Dennis Bogaski, that gave me a ride from Altoona to Grinnell in Iowa, where I've been campaigning. And the truth of it, Joe, is that there are 3.5 million truck drivers in this country right now. It's the most common job in 29 states. And the average trucker is a 49-year-old guy with a high school education, maybe ex-military like Dennis was. They're making like $50,000 a year. So then if you say, hey, I'm going to retrain 500,000 truck drivers, for what exactly is like issue number one?
Right.
And then these guys didn't love school 30 years ago. It's not like driving a truck has made them really excited about the idea.
Yeah.
And then the new job you're training them for, I looked into the data as to how good we were at retraining, let's say, displaced manufacturing workers in the Midwest when we started decimating their jobs. And we're terrible at it. Like, according to independent studies, government-funded retraining programs had a success rate of between 0 and 15% in real life. Like, this is what actually happened to the workers of Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. And so if you say we're going to retrain these people, then you also have to come up with a way for us to become amazing at something that right now we're really, really bad at. And if you were an employer, which you are, would you rather employ a 50-year-old former truck driver with health problems who got some certificate program, or would you rather hire a 25-year-old kid who went to community college, is probably cheaper, has lower expectations, and his skills are natively going to be a little fresher? I mean, if you were an employer, you'd probably choose number two.
I agree, but I'm trying to look at this through rose-colored glasses, I guess. I'm trying to think if there's a way that these people can adapt.
You know, I mean, some will, for sure. You can retrain and reskill some people, but if you look at even the conversations we're having around this, where people legitimately talk about retraining coal miners to be software engineers, stuff that on the face of it makes no sense. But the reason why we're stretching for that is because we're looking for some kind of retraining-oriented solution when the numbers show that that's just not going to be the recipe, therefore actual success.
And this is where this whole learn to code controversy is coming out online, where people are actually getting banned for writing learn to code. It's really a hot subject on Twitter, and it's very confusing too, and I haven't really gotten an explanation for why that's such an offensive thing to say, but people are getting banned for even joking around saying learn to code. It's very, very weird, but the idea behind it is that it's kind of preposterous to ask someone who doesn't have an education to do something that's as difficult as code, computer language.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're going to get to a point where AI can do some basic coding at a certain level. So if you think about the impulse to say learn to code, what it's really saying is you need to do something that the market values. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, being a truck driver, the market's not going to value that much when the trucks start driving themselves in the next 5 to 10 years. So what does the market value? And then people are like, well,
please,
coding.
Let's Is this copywritten? I bet it is. Watch.
There is still.
Oh, it's not. Ooh. Listen to this. Now, what Andrew Yang just said, you're going to retrain all these truck drivers when, these things start driving themselves in the next 5 or 10 years, right? So listen to Elon Musk, yo. Listen to what Elon Musk about to say.
No car that can compete with Model S of 2012. It's 7 years later.
Oh, I got to turn that speaker. I don't know why the speaker's acting all funny on me, yo.
Still wait, it's 7 years later. There is still in 2019 no car that can compete with Model S of 2012. It's 7 years later. Still waiting.
Next year, we'll expand the product line with Model Y and Semi. And we expect to
Model
have
Y and Semi.
Next year.
Okay, next year, semi trucks coming out, yo, Tesla semi trucks.
2012. It's 7 years later. Still waiting. Next year, we'll expand the product line with Model Y and Semi. And we expect to have the first operating robotaxis next year, with no one in them. Next year. It's always difficult to, like, when things are on an exponential, at an exponential rate of improvement, it's very difficult to kind of wrap one's mind around it because we're used to extrapolating on a linear basis. But when you've got massive amounts of like, as the hardware, massive amounts of hardware on the road, the cumulative data is increasing exponentially. The software is getting better at an exponential rate. I feel very confident predicting autonomous robotaxis for Tesla next year. Not in all jurisdictions because we won't have regulatory approval everywhere, but I'm confident we'll have at least regulatory approval somewhere literally next year. So any customer will be able to add or remove their car to the Tesla network. So we expect this to operate is sort of like a combination of maybe the Uber and Airbnb model. So if you own the car, you can add or subtract it to the Tesla network, and Tesla would take 25 or 30% of the revenue. And then in places where there aren't enough people sharing their cars, we would just have dedicated Tesla vehicles. So when you use the car, we'll show you our ride-sharing app. So you'll be able to summon the car from the parking lot, get in, and go for a drive. It's really simple. So you just take the same Tesla app that you currently have. We'll update the app and add a summon Tesla, or commit your car to the fleet. So it's either summon your car, or summon a Tesla, or add or subtract your car to the fleet. You'll be able to do that from your phone. Like typically, the use of a car is about 10 to 12 hours a week. So most people will drive 1.5 to 2 hours a day, typically 10 to 12 hours a week of total driving. But if you have a car that can operate autonomously, then most likely you'd have that car operate for a third of the week or longer. So there are 168 hours in a week, so probably you've got something on the order of 55 to 60 hours a week of operation, maybe a bit longer. So the fundamental utility of a vehicle increases by a factor of 5. So you can look at this from a macroeconomic standpoint and say, just if this was like if we were operating some big simulation, if you could upgrade your simulation to increase the utility of cars by a factor of 5, that would be a massive increase in the economic efficiency of the simulation. Just gigantic. So we'll do Model 3, S3 and X as taxis, but we made an important change to our leases. So if you lease a Model 3, you don't have the option of buying it at the end of the lease. We want them back. If you buy the car, you can keep it, but if you lease it, you have to give it back. And as I said, where in any locations where there's not enough supply for sharing, Tesla will just make its own cars and add them to the network in that place. So the current cost of Model 3 Robotaxi is less than $38,000. We expect that number to improve over time. And we're designing the cars. The cars currently being built are all designed for 1 million miles of operation. So the drive units are designed and tested and validated for 1 million miles of operation. The current battery pack is about maybe 300 to 500,000 miles. The new battery pack that probably go into production next year is designed explicitly for 1 million miles of operation. The entire vehicle, battery pack inclusive, is designed to operate for 1 million miles with minimal maintenance. So we'll actually be adjusting tire design and really optimizing the car for a hyper-efficient robotaxi. And at some point, you won't need steering wheels or pedals, and we'll just delete those. So as these things become less and less important, we'll just delete parts. Just they won't be there. If you say like probably 2 years from now, we make a car that has no steering wheels and pedals. And if we need to accelerate that time, we can always just delete parts, easy. Yeah, probably, say long term, 3 years, robotaxis with eliminated parts, maybe it ends up being $25,000 or less. And there's just really no company that has the full stack integration. We've got the vehicle design and manufacturing, we've got the computer hardware in-house, we've got the in-house software development and AI, and we've got by far the biggest fleet. It's extremely difficult, not impossible perhaps, but extremely difficult to catch up when Tesla has 100 times more miles per day than everyone else combined. This is the cost of running a gasoline car, or the average cost of running a car in the US. This adds up to $2 trillion a year. These are literally just taken from the AAA website. The cost of ride sharing is, according to Uber and Lyft, is $2 to $3 a mile. The cost to run a robotaxi, we think, less than 18 cents a mile. And dropping. Like this would be current. This is current cost. Future cost will be lower. If you say what would be the probable gross profit from a single robotaxi, we think probably something on the order of $30,000 per year, and this assumes that 50% of the miles driven are not useful. So this is only at 50% utility. From our standpoint, if you fast forward a year, just maybe a year and 3 months, but next year for sure, we will have over 1 million robotaxis on the road. The fleet wakes up with an over-the-air update. That's all it takes. You say, what is net present value of a robotaxi? Probably on the order of a couple $100,000. So buying a Model 3 is a good deal. Any questions? Well, I mean,
So is that shit not crazy, yo? Or is that just me? I'm the only person find that information damn near mind blowing? This dude say, yo, next year we have 1 million robot taxis, autonomous, completely autonomous. The next 3 or 4 years, we'll leave out the pedals, the steering wheel, to make the car cheaper. To operate this car, it's only be 18 cents a mile for ride sharing. And then if you buy the car, it'll wind up making you about $30,000 a year just if you put it online and let it ride share other people. Yo, that dude is a genius. Like, he is the Einstein of our time, yo. Like, and I know he doesn't do it all by himself, and he's backed by a lot of government funding and stuff too, but you know, his initial ideas and concepts, yo, this dude is crazy. So what you say, man? You gonna get a Tesla? Everybody getting Teslas next year with their income tax? What? I got an electric car. Yo, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Man, my mind be all over the place. We was listening to Joe Rogan and Andrew Yang talk about his presidential campaign, and then Andrew Yang started talking about the economy and how it's going to switch up because everything is going to be automated. Then he started talking about truck drivers being one of the most popular jobs in America, and then what you going to do when all the truck drivers ain't got no job no more because the robots took their job. And that was like, oh, let's listen to this Elon Musk talk about the robots taking the jobs. And that's something else too. Like, there's an ass of cab drivers as well. But when the cabs start driving themselves, what taxi drivers gonna do? Even Uber riders, like, ain't nobody gonna need nobody to do nothing no more, yo. And that's gonna be like this hard transition. It's gonna be like more difficult than people can imagine, yo. And that's what I see, and that's what a lot of other thinking motherfuckers see too. Is coming like it looks all sweet and dandy and new technology this and new AI that, but the transition gonna be rough, yo. Yes, man. All these factory jobs, dead in the water. And it's all about productivity and the bottom line, man, the profits. And whatever companies choose to keep manpower, they're gonna fall behind their competitors who choose to go automated. Because the robots don't need no health insurance, they don't need no breaks and no vacation times. They just run 24 hours a day. All you need is a few guys to service the robots, and that's it. You better learn coding. You better tell them, Puff. Better know them damn computers, boy. Are you doing something that's completely human interactive, psychology, or find some good branch in the medical field? Become a guidance counselor or something? I don't know what to tell you. I'm fried already, so it is what it is for me, but I mean, they made it hard enough on my generation, but shoot, this next generation, bruh. Y'all dead in the water. They've been how many years they've been talking about, oh, it's hard to find a job even with a college degree. Exactly. Now it's gonna be even harder because there ain't gonna be no jobs to find. Whatever you get a degree in, man, yo, that shit better be something deeply human interactive. Or some a major trade that ain't really gonna go out of play too soon. Like servicing these cars and stuff, man. Like mechanics, they gonna be around for a minute. Even plumbers and shit like that, electricians, they gonna be around for a long time. Oh, you already know that Van Dyke Brown. That's what I'm saying. I got a PhD and still had to make a job. Had to make my own job. That's what I'm saying, man. It just gonna get rougher and rougher until it's so rough. Let's get back to Andrew Yang and Joe Rogan talk about this universal basic income. And that sounds scary for the simple fact that, okay, yeah, you want to give everybody money each month, you know, with no motherfucking stranger tax and nothing like that. But how you gonna do it? Like, I remember I was on unemployment one time, yo. No, I was on unemployment twice. So the first time I was on unemployment, I would just get a check, my unemployment check. And I was on unemployment, it's been years and years ago now. But they gave you a card, like a little debit card you got your money on. And that's how they just track you and track all your spending habits and where you spend your money and how you spend your money and what you spend your money on. And that's all that is. Like, I already knew that. I was like, damn, man, the government watching everybody how they spend their money. But then, like, if they give us universal basic income, what they gonna do? Probably get that to you on some kind of debit card, some national cash card or something like that. And then, like, if you do something they don't like, what if you get arrested for some dumb shit, or then they can just cut your card off and, like, I don't know, man. Like, this digital currency, everything is about to become digital, yo. A lot of places don't even accept, like, $50 bills and stuff like that. But when all the money become digital, man, they can just cut your revenue off. I'm telling you, man, the next couple years, man, this shit getting, I don't know, I'll be thinking about all this stuff, yo. Yeah. Let's say the next the next 10 years is gonna look real funny.
Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stock.
No, because we can't listen to commercials on my channel.
And STEM and engineering skills. And so there's a drive to try and push people in those directions. But if you look at the numbers, about 8% of American jobs right now are in STEM fields, like in technology, engineering, math, etc. So you're talking about 92% of the population that is not in those fields. And it's unrealistic to expect that 92% to somehow shift into the 8%.
Right, and there even be places for them there.
Yeah, and that's true too.
Even if they perfectly seamlessly transition, there's too many people for those jobs.
Yeah, so I've been driven to universal basic income in part because I've been looking at the numbers. The 5 most common jobs in the United States right now are administrative and clerical work, retail and sales, food service and food prep, truck driving and transportation and manufacturing. Those 5 jobs comprise about half of all American jobs. Only 32% of Americans graduate from college. So the average American is a high school grad doing one of these 5 jobs. And if you look at it, technology is already doing a number on each of these jobs. Like the first, administrative and clerical, includes call center workers, and AI is in the process of taking over that job. Retail and sales, 30% of malls are closing in the next 4 years. So the danger here is to think of it as artificial intelligence is coming. It's actually already eating up the most common jobs in our economy, and it's driving Americans into distress in various ways in the numbers.
Now, when you're talking about universal basic income, there's 2 questions that come up. How much money, and where is it coming from?
Yeah. So first, I want to say that if you look at the heritage of universal basic income, it's a deeply American idea where Thomas Paine was for it at the founding of the country. And then Martin Luther King was for it. Milton Friedman, the godfather of conservative economists, was for it. And one state has had it in effect for 37 years, where everyone in that state gets between $1,000 and $2,000 a year, no questions asked.
This is Alaska?
Yeah, it's Alaska, and they fund it with oil money. Mm-hmm. And what I'm going around telling people is that technology is the oil of the 21st century. So I know you spoke to another guest about, hey, how do you get, let's say, approximately $3 trillion a year to fund universal basic income? And the great thing is that the first thing is that it's not actually $3 trillion. And the reason why it's not $3 trillion is that if you look at what we're currently doing, we're spending about $1.5 trillion right now on 126 welfare programs and Social Security. And so if you show up to someone's door and say, hey, here's a dividend of $1,000 a month, but if you're already getting more than $1,000 in stuff, we're not just going to stack it on top. We're just going to say you're guaranteed $1,000, and if you're already getting more, then this doesn't touch you. You can keep your current stuff. If you're getting $700 in food stamps and whatnot, then you can just get $300 on top. So the $3 trillion actually shrinks a lot very fast because of the fact that about half of Americans are already getting various income support from the government. So the real price tag is closer to about $1.8 trillion if you say everyone who's 18 and up. Now, for context, the entire U.S. economy is now $20 trillion. up $5 trillion in the last 12 years, and the federal budget's $4 trillion. So you're looking at $1.8 trillion. It's a lot of money, but it's actually manageable. And one of the things that I haven't heard discussed here with you is that when you put money into people's hands, the money doesn't disappear. Like if I gave you $1,000 a month, it probably would not make a big difference in the economy because it would just go into your account somewhere and nothing would happen. But we all know that right now most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 57% of Americans can't afford an unexpected $500 bill. So you put $1,000 a month into their hands, it's going to go right back into the economy. They're going to spend it on food, childcare, car repairs they've been putting off, the occasional night out. And then all of those businesses end up hiring more people, and then we end up getting some of the money back as tax revenues. So of the $1.8 trillion, we're going to get back, let's call it $400 billion in new tax receipts because everyone's going to be spending more money. We're going to save $100 to $200 billion on things like incarceration and homelessness services and emergency room healthcare. I was in New Hampshire last month, and a prison guard said to me, there's a prison guard. He said we should pay people to stay out of jail because we waste so much money when they're in jail. Like he sees all the waste in the system. So if you imagine a society where everyone's getting $1,000 a month, that's it's a great incentive to try and stay out of jail because you stop getting it if you wind up in jail, and it reduces recidivism because when you come out of jail, at least you have $1,000 a month waiting for you, and then you're less inclined to commit a crime and head back in.
How much crime do you think you'd actually prevent though by giving people $1,000 a month? I mean, I think most of the people that are doing crime, whether it's thievery or assault, they're not thinking this out. This is just either a way of life for them, either they've got real mental issues or a pattern of behavior that they can't break. I really don't think that $1,000 a month is going to fix any of that.
Well, it's not going to fix all of it for sure. I mean, we'll still have jails. It's not like silver bullet.
Yeah.
But at the margins, would it keep like that person who's falling through the cracks and feels like they have no place in society, and maybe they, it's like the people around them are also like, hey, you don't have any value, and you get $1,000 a month, maybe like it keeps them off at the margins. And everything we're talking about is at the margins. I mean, everything's like this statistical curve, and you're taking the people who are, let's call it like the last 10 to 20%. But if you reduce our incarcerated population by 10 to 20%, I mean, that's billions and billions of dollars. So you're saving money on a bunch of things we spend like about $1 trillion on right now, like healthcare, incarceration, homelessness services. And then the magic is that if you have $1,000 a month and you're a parent, so you feel this, that studies have shown that your kids are healthier, better nourished, more likely to graduate from high school and get further education, mental health improves, relationships improve, domestic violence goes down, hospital visits go down, and your worker productivity goes up. I mean, you're an entrepreneur and CEO, so when you run a company, you say, I'm going to invest in my people. I'm going to treat them well and try and train them and give them resources because that'll increase your productivity as an organization. In the public sector, we have the opposite approach. Where if I can just avoid spending money on you, then I'm going to somehow save money. When we end up spending that money in very, very dark, costly, counterproductive ways in the back end, because they wind up, in our institutions. And our institutions just spend a truckload of money. So if you look at the cost savings and the value gains and the economic growth, that actually gets you back about $1 trillion of the 1.8. This is like the trickle-up economy, because none of the money disappears. It goes right back into the economy.
Cryptocurrency.
And the way you get the last $800 billion or so is related to what we think is happening with AI and all these advanced technologies. Because if you look at who's going to win with AI and self-driving cars and trucks, the savings from robot trucks are estimated to be $168 billion a year, just from that one thing. So the problem is that the American public is going to see very little of that money because the winners are going to be the trillion-dollar tech companies that are great at just not paying a lot of taxes. They'll move it through Ireland. Amazon will say, didn't make any money this quarter, no reason to pay taxes. And so what we need to do is we need to put in a new tax that actually gets the American public a slice of every robot truck mile, Amazon transaction, Facebook ad. And every other industrialized country already has this tax. It's called a value-added tax. And because...
Now, he basically said it, yo. But everybody think, oh, capitalism is so great. It's the free market. The free market regulates itself. Fuck. No. The market is manipulated by the central banks and the big corporations. Period. And now, with, once again, this automated AI, fourth industrial revolution, we will see just how bad capitalism is. Because the only people who are going to survive and get really even more wealthy off this is the big companies, yo. That's it. And that's how capitalism works. I say, man, this thing is going to be devastating in the next couple of years, yo. It's crazy. Only the fat cat's going to get fatter.
They'll move it through Ireland. Amazon will say didn't make any money this quarter. No reason to. As the winners of robot trucking with AI and all these advanced technologies. Because if you look at who's going to win with AI and self-driving cars and trucks, the savings from robot trucks are estimated to be $168 billion a year, just from that one thing. So the problem is that the American public is going to see very little of that money because the winners are going to be the trillion-dollar tech companies that are great at just not paying a lot of taxes. They'll move it through Ireland. Amazon will say didn't make any money this quarter, no reason to pay taxes. And so what we need to do is we need to put in a new tax that actually gets the American public a slice of every robot truck mile, Amazon transaction, Facebook ad. And every other industrialized country already has this tax. It's called a value-added tax. And because our economy is so vast at 20 trillion, a value-added tax at even half the European level generates about 800 billion in new revenue. And that gets you all the way there. So this is much more achievable and affordable than most people think when they start unpacking how the numbers work out.
So essentially, it would be the biggest corporations, the companies that gain or that have the largest revenue. They're going to be paying most of this.
Yeah, but they're going to get some of that money back, obviously, because one of the things I say to the CEOs, it's like if everyone in Missouri is getting $1,000, you know Amazon's going to see some of that because they're just going to buy more stuff.
Right.
That's true for all of the big companies. What I say to CEOs, and I've spoken to groups of dozens of CEOs, what's really bad for your business is when people don't have money to spend. What's good for your business is when they do. So they're going to give up some money at the top end, but they're just going to end up getting it back when their consumers end up spending a bit more.
And has this been actually fleshed out, like the real numbers or the projections of how much they're going to get back?
Yeah. So the Roosevelt Institute studied this plan of everyone getting $1,000 a month and projected it would create 2 million new jobs and grow the economy by 8 to 10%. And then you can model out what that means to each business because in that climate, they're going to see a similar uptick in revenues.
Did they factor in all the jobs that are going to be lost?
So one of the things that's a misconception about universal basic income is that it somehow will facilitate job loss.
Well, job losses, though, is the reason for universal basic income in the first place, right?
Yeah, which we're in the midst of right now. Like right now as we're sitting here together, the labor force participation rate in the United States is 63%, which is the same levels as El Salvador and the Dominican Republic. That's right now. 94 million or so Americans have left the workforce over the last number of years. Now, a lot of that's natural demographics, a lot of that's people in school, but about 5 million of it is unskilled men who've gotten pushed out of the workforce. So again, this is not like, we're going to solve a problem that's coming down the pike. We're actually in the middle of this problem. So if you put $1,000 a month into people's hands, it actually grows the economy and creates jobs because of more economic activity.
Now, when you say a problem that's coming down the pike, what are the projections in terms of the timeline?
Yes. So a lot of the projections are actually pretty consistent with each other, which means they're probably right. So Bain says you're looking at between 20 and 30% of jobs subject to automation by 2030, which is pretty soon. It's 11 years from now. McKinsey says about 25%. the Obama White House, literally like their last day in office, they issued a report saying, hey guys, we're going to automate away all the jobs and then turn the lights off. They said 83% of jobs that make less than $20 an hour will be subject to automation by 2030. MIT is saying the same thing. And so we have 11 years to try and accelerate meaningful solutions. And this 11 years, it's not like it all happens on 2030. It's going to happen between now and then progressively, according to all of the major institutions that have looked at this.
That's why I say, the next 10 years, the next 10 years is going to be ridiculous, bro. The changes our society and our economy is going to go through in the next 10 years is going to be just like the internet. How dramatic was the internet to the way we look at the world nowadays, to how we interact one to the other? It was a total cultural shift. The internet was. And you remember the internet before apps, applications, and all these things. Now, how dramatically did the app thing change the way we use the internet? There's an app for everything now, and now once again, this thing is just gonna keep growing, And like Elon Musk says, it's changing exponentially. Leaps and bounds. And the next 10 years, man, if you got little kids right now, if your kid's 6, 7 years old, you can't teach them the way that we learned. It's not gonna work. They can't learn how many pounds of corn Nebraska grew last year. We gotta teach them better stuff, And then they got this Common Core. Oh my God, what is all this Common Core education? They dumbing them down. Dumbing them down. Slowly, but surely. Slowly, but surely. And we're just watching it right before our very eyes, Y'all like how I blend that thing, ain't it? I know it. That brush sounds so pretty. That brush sounds so pretty. All right, let's see. All right, we're going to put something back on and listen to it real quick. All right. I am currently applying uh, the second layer of paint to this canvas. So far I've gotten most of the skin tone on her face. I still have to do her ear. I did this portion of her hand and wrist here and this part of the shoulder. So basically just the top of her torso here up towards this shoulder. This is still the first layer of paint. I actually applied some gold leaf to this canvas as well. I'm gonna wind up painting around it, trying to sharpen up the lines a little bit, and then maybe apply some more gold leaf to it and give it like a textured effect. Then I want to add some more thickness to the hair right here in her afro puff to give it that real afro look to it and more highlights to the hair. So it's coming along pretty good. I'm not sure if I can get it done, and I can probably finish it in time for my next show, but I'm not sure if it'll be dry. I'm trying to put like extra thin layers of paint without slacking too much, more or less, you know, trying to get it to dry a little faster. I was thinking about adding some dryer to the paint, and there's an additive that helps it harden faster, but sometimes it can like tint the paint and turn it a yellowish color, and I don't like that, so I don't normally use dryer.
My king, I have discovered something called a preservative. We can put it in Bud Light and make it last forever.
Much an open.
Okay.
Oh my god, can't listen to these. Yo, Boozy, I want to listen to this so bad, but I'm not gonna do it. I've been listening to this show called The Atheist Experience, and it's pretty good. Once again, I don't agree with everything they say, but I agree with like 99% of what they say, yo, on The Atheist Experience. Now, it's a non-profit. It says non-profit and activism, but it does say copyright 1997, Atheist Community of Austin, all rights reserved. So as soon as you see that copyright, that means don't do it. Don't do it. But I might call into the channel and ask them personally, like, yo, do you care if I listen to your show on my YouTube channel? I'm not trying to like sell your stuff or anything like that.
years to less. Less sugar Greek yogurt from Chobani.
Oh my God.
One day I came across the ancestry site, and within...
Okay, commercial.
Car insurance is fundamentally
Oh my, Jesus.
and needlessly complex.
They're gonna ban me for commercials, watch, yo. Hey, 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 hey. Yo, what up, 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 what up? MGJ Productions.
Bow, 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 bow.
MJ Productions.
At Pin Pollock Nissan,
Yo,
we make new
at
friends.
Trap House Entertainment, we can't listen to your
Hey,
commercials,
Joe.
bro.
Welcome. Thank you. Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Sam Harris sends his regards.
Yeah, Sam's a beautiful man.
That's who I wanted to see up there, Joe Rogan and Sam Harris.
This is much bigger than even podcasting. I think I'd be interested to know what you feel about this. I mean, you are the quintessence of the successful ad model in podcasting, right? Like this is it's working fantastically well for you and for people like Tim Ferriss and probably Mark Maron. I mean, there's kind of like a winner take all thing happening in this space where ads are working great, and I am a really also a highly successful example of the support model. It's like the PBS model, the NPR model. And what's weird is that I can't you and I are both surrounded by people who have podcasts, want to have podcasts, and are asking us for advice about how to succeed and how to monetize. And like I'm not even in a place where I can recommend my model to anyone else, right? Because it's a very it's very hit or miss. I mean, I just happen to have developed an audience that will support my work.
And you had developed that audience previously, ironically enough, on YouTube. There's a lot of YouTube
just
debates.
Random people putting my content on their YouTube channels. Yeah,
well, mostly debates, right?
Yeah, and as an author, but it was just the podcast grew, and I had this sort of forced choice: where am I going to go the ad route or not? And I found that I have two things to say fairly strongly against ads, but really only one of them applies to me, and I don't think it applies to you or Tim or anyone else. I just felt personally I couldn't use ads because of sort of what my platform is and the kinds of topics I'm engaging, and it just didn't work. I mean, there was nothing highbrow enough where I felt like my credibility wasn't getting subtly undermined by shilling for it. I mean, it could be something that I just legit loved. I mean, it could have been the Oxford English Dictionary. You guys, this is the best dictionary in the world. You guys should use it. I still couldn't do it, and I tried it with the only thing I took on as a sponsor was Audible, and I did that for some weeks, and then it just, I love Audible, but it just felt wrong, and so I decided to just experiment with a different business model, and it's working for me, but I don't think it can work for most people, and I view that as a problem. And the thing that I think is interesting is that this is much bigger than podcasting. So you have Facebook on the one hand, which is just a totally free platform where the users don't even realize that they're not the customers; they're the actual product, right? The users are having their attention sold to advertisers, and it's this enormous business. And on the other end of the digital spectrum, you have Netflix, which is just a stark paywall, right? And there's no way in but to pay the subscription. And Netflix could run ads and get more money if they wanted to, but they're not doing that, and presumably won't do that. And I'm hoping, just generally speaking, that the digital future looks much more like Netflix and much less like Facebook. And because I see what ads have done is they've anchored everyone to the illusion of free. Everyone expects their digital content for free, except in places like Netflix, right? So like when you release a comedy special, when you release your next hour, and you sell it to Netflix, I would imagine there are very few people in your fan base who are thinking, well, fuck Joe Rogan. Why didn't he just put that out on YouTube? Right? Why is this on Netflix? They sort of understand that this piece of content belongs on that shelf, and that if they want it, they have to subscribe to Netflix. Whereas if you did something slightly different, but functionally the same, if you put it on Vimeo and charge people $5 or whatever, Vimeo on demand, I think you'd get a lot more pain, right?
Yeah.
People would say, well, fuck you, you greedy bastard. Like, you're already doing great. Just release your stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I view that as a problem. It's like a psychological problem. People have been anchored to the ad-subsidized model more or less everywhere, and they expect everything for free. And in my world, I'm trying to continually brook that expectation and push people into a different sense of you get what you pay for. Right. And so that the hybrid model I've created for myself is I'm putting more stuff behind a paywall, right? I mean, so that it's not just pure sponsorship of otherwise free content, but I'm very uncomfortable with the idea that if someone actually can't afford it, they can't get access to my content. So I just tell people, if you really can't afford the stuff behind my paywall, or you really can't afford my meditation app, just send us an email and we'll give it to you for free, right? So
yeah, I've heard that. I was like, this guy's crazy.
I mean, it's actually in the pricing in the App Store for my meditation app. It's like there's the pricing, and then below that there's, if you can't afford this, here's the email address.
I think that's fantastic.
And so
that's
I'm kind of free. I'm splitting it that way, but I'm raising prices. So it's like at a certain, because I think everything is too cheap in the digital space. I think we're anchored to. I mean, there are people who will spend $5 a day on a cup of coffee every day for the rest of their lives, and yet if you told them this podcast or this app that they say is incredibly valuable to them is going to cost them $5 a month, they feel raped, right? So it's, and I completely understand it, because I know what it's like to hit a paywall and think, I can't get my credit card out again. I'm not going to pay for this. I'm going to find this information somewhere else. So we've all been anchored to this thing, and something is going to win in the end. I mean, I think at some point, it's going to look much more like Netflix or much more like Facebook, and I'm throwing my lot in with the former, but it really is the Wild West.
Well, the Netflix thing's different because Netflix has programs that cost a lot of money to create. This podcast is very easy. You're my friend, I call you up, hey, you want to do a podcast? You come on over here. I mean, obviously we had to pay for all this equipment, but other than that, it's just, and bandwidth and rent and all that stuff, but other than that, it just goes up.
Right.
Whereas you do a comedy special, it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. You have to secure a venue, you have to hire staff. I mean, it's a big deal. That's an easy thing in terms of like bang for their buck, what Netflix will get out of it. If you do a television show, I mean, my God, you need to hire hundreds of people. There's wardrobe and makeup and set, and there's writers and producers and executives, and everybody has to go over the script with a fine-tooth comb. It's incredibly, incredibly strenuous. There's a lot going on when you create a television, like Stranger Things or something like that. I mean, you have so much special effects, and so to ask for free seems ridiculous.
Well, yeah, but except so I'm kind of split again. I'm running on two tracks here. An app is much more like a television show, surprisingly, than it is like a podcast. But,
yes.
But even if it's just a podcast, if you want to build something, if you want to build a media company, like let's say you were asking for support for this otherwise free podcast. People don't know what your aspirations are. I mean, maybe you want to start a podcast network, right? Maybe you're trying to build a business maybe you have massive payroll expenses. So the expectation that the product should always be free closes the door to any of those aspirations, if in fact you have them. And it's like, it's very interesting psychologically, because I've created this network of support for my podcast. But I see people do calculations that they would never do in a more transactional space if they were just, let's say, buying my next book, right? So like, for me, offering a free podcast and then saying, if you find this valuable, you can support it, right? That, from the side of being a creator of that content, it feels like the most transparent interaction possible, because a person can listen for free for as long as they want to just discover how valuable it is, and then they can support it to the degree that they find it valuable. Whereas if I'm selling you a book, you can't even read the book before you buy it, right? You have to make the decision to buy it, and I'm trying to convince you to buy it because it took me all this time to write it, and it's transactional. With a podcast, people make calculations that they would never make when they're just figuring out whether they want to buy something. It's and it's really along the lines of what you just described. People will say, well, how much does a podcast cost to produce? Right? Like if I knew what you were spending the money on and what it cost you to do this podcast, well, then I would support you, right? But they're never saying, how much does it cost to write a book? And if I knew what you were going to spend the money on once I bought this book, then I would know whether or not I wanted to buy it. You either want the book or you don't, right? So the problem with the support model, and this is the problem with Patreon and everything else, is that it engages the sort of the philanthropy, charity side of the brain, right? And people are worried about what you're going to do and how much it all costs. Like, how much does this mic cost, right? Like that's a question that someone is asking
when they're donating.
Yeah, when they're donating, and the problem there is they're not understanding, just the opportunity cost. Like I have to decide how to spend my time. Am I going to spend 90% of my time on a podcast? Well, if so, that closes the door to virtually everything else I can do, right? So it has to become a viable business. And so, I mean, I've recognized now that I'm, to some degree going against the grain of human psychology in asking for support. And now I feel like I'm going to ask much less. I mean, I'm going to tell people what the business model is and remind them of it. But I'm going to go more and more in the direction of putting stuff behind a paywall. And if people want it, then they can support. And so it's sort of Netflix. The ultimate version of it would be if it were Netflix that would also let you get it for free if you really couldn't afford it. Right? That's the guilt-free business model that I'm converging on now.
I like it. I like how you're thinking, and I like the ethics involved in it, and I think it's a great thing. And when you said it on your podcast, I was shocked, but it makes sense coming from you. My thought is I'm in negotiation or in discussions right now, and I talked to you about this too, about building an app. And what I want to do with the app is have a set amount of money that you pay per month if you want to sign up for the app, and you get the podcast with no ads.
Right.
So you could either get it from iTunes or whatever, Google Play or Google Podcasts, or you can get it from the app, and if you get it from the app, you pay X amount per month, and you get the podcast with 0 ads. And it'll stream live. I'm going to figure out how to do both of those things. My thought going into advertising, when I first did the podcast, I've been doing the podcast now for 9 years. When I first started doing it, there was no ads for the longest time. It just cost money. It cost money for bandwidth. It cost money to put it, but I was doing it for fun, and I didn't care. And my revenue was coming from other sources. A few years ago, I decided what I was going to do was, because I was getting the first ad request was the Fleshlight rather, and you were the first person to request to not have the Fleshlight on your podcast, the first podcast that we did.
Fucking prima donna, Sam Harris.
Well, it made sense. Yeah. I mean, they were disgusting ads too. I mean, we would get ridiculous and be really silly in those ads.
It was just the juxtaposition. Just knowing that the mic would go hot, and then 15 seconds before it would still be ringing in their ears. That if you want to jack off with this fantastic device, and here's Sam Harris, neuroscientist and moral philosopher.
The Fleshlight experienced some pretty significant positive impact from that. I mean, their business went through the roof because of the podcast. I mean, they really sold a shitload of Fleshlights. Where they told me some ungodly number, like 50% of the Fleshlights they were selling was code word Rogan.
Yeah, no doubt. That's something I don't want to picture too much of the armies of people using their product,
So word got around, and then as the podcast space started expanding, then advertisers tentatively were dipping their toe in. My philosophy, and it still holds.
And that's like 2006 or 7 or?
Jamie?
2012,
11.
I wasn't. The first time I was on here was 2011. Wow.
Started basically at the end of 2009, so 2010 was.
You were probably on before. Yeah, you were probably on around 2010 or 11. There was no other ads other than the Fleshlight though with you.
Yeah.
And then the Fleshlight dropped off when we started asking for more money. They're like, I think we hit the point of no return. But my philosophy getting into advertisement was I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to do, 100%, and have no impact whatsoever on the content of my podcast. Like whatever advertisers that I choose, whatever advertisers that I make deals with, they have to understand that there's no way I'm changing the content of the podcast.
Right.
And if I lose them, I lose them. I don't care. And that was the thought process going in. So I never hit a snag like this Cash App Jack Dorsey thing before, where people think that the reason why I was easy with him was because of the fact that he sponsors the podcast. It's a very obvious conflict of interest.
Right.
But
but people have to realize that if they churn out off your podcast, you've got just an endless number of advertisers waiting.
Too many
in line.
ads.
Yeah, so
I mean, the Cash
that's
App
not
is
a psychological component.
It's like there's one way of looking at it that they buy a lot of ads. They do buy a lot of ads. We do have a good relationship with them, but I don't need them.
No.
If they went away, I have too many ads, and that sounds gross to say, but it is a fact. I have many more ads than I have spots for ads. So if they went away, it would not hurt me at all financially because I put a limit on how many ads I do per podcast. I also don't ever interrupt a podcast with an ad. I don't do that.
Right.
And because I don't do that, that costs me money. But I just feel like the experience of listening to a podcast unbroken is so much better than listening to a podcast. We'll be right back with this word from Casper Mattresses. You know, it feels gross. But in the beginning, I'm like, look, you know where it is. You can fast forward, but maybe you're into this stuff. Maybe you need stamps.com. Maybe whatever the fuck you need. Those are the ads. They pay a lot of money. I'm going to take that money, and I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want. And if these guys decide, oh, you smoke pot, or you're too controversial, or you talk about this or talk about that, we're going to drop you, okay. Right. That's my philosophy. And I've lost ads. I've lost sponsors. Okay, I don't care. But if I lost the Cash App because I was too hard on Jack Dorsey, or if Jack Dorsey comes back and I'm too hard on him in grilling him about these people that have been censored, I hope he doesn't, but I like him. He's a nice guy. Yeah. I want to know what the fuck's going on there. In fact, I'm having Tim Pool come on tomorrow. Tim Pool's an investigative journalist, independent journalist who was used to be with Vice, and he knows a lot about the censorship issue with YouTube, or with Twitter rather, and he knows about YouTube as well. But with who is censored and why, who is removed, who's been deplatformed, why they've been deplatformed, and where are the inconsistencies, and why is it skewing so heavily right, where the people on the right are the ones who are getting banned, the people on the left are getting away with a lot of crazy shit. So we're gonna get into the weeds with that. And if the Cash App hears that and they decide to drop me as a sponsor, I don't care.
Yeah.
I really don't care. This is a major source of income for me, but it's only one source.
Right.
It's one of the things of being a stand-up comedian, working for the UFC, and having a podcast, and I have a podcast with ads on YouTube, and having ads that are on the regular podcast itself. I'm free I have plenty of money. It's not whether or not I'm starving or worried about paying my bills. I'm free to do whatever I want to do.
Well, also, I should be clear. Like, I don't think, because this could sound totally sanctimonious, and it's not intended that way. I don't think my scruples around reading ads on my podcast apply to you or Tim Ferriss or many other people. I mean, like Tim is the ultimate example. Tim is somebody whose brand, on some level, is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out there and find the best shit in the world.
Right.
The best shirts, the best workout equipment, and I'm going to tell you about it. So I want to know what Tim has found. Right. So if Tim is reading an ad for something, that is totally brand convergent for him. And I think you're very much in a similar situation. If you're talking about Onnit or whatever it is, it's your own. You own part of Onnit, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like.
I should also be clear that I say no to a lot of ads that I don't want. Like there was a Uber for babysitting. I was like, get the fuck out of here. What are you, crazy?
Actually, so that got recommended to me by somebody, but it sounds like Craigslist for babysitting.
It sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. There's been a few that I've said no to, like quite a few. Some of them that are just boring. I'm like, I'm not reading that. I'm not selling that. That's stupid.
But also, you're a comic who can send up ads. I think Bill Burr does this, where he kind of trashes the ad as he's reading it.
And he loses some because of that. He lost Nature Box because he told people to go eat apples.
Yeah, really.
He's like, go eat a fucking apple.
So that's totally and that's something
that's a tool you have in your wheelhouse that has effects down the line. It's like it's one reason why you can stream live without really worrying about it, and I feel I can't. Like, so it's like at the end of the day, like if things go completely haywire on your podcast, you can say, listen, I'm a fucking comic, what do I know, right? You can just hold the ripcord. You're fine, right? Right. I can't do that. Right. Like, so like
You can't say I'm a moron.
Yeah, so
You can't say that.
Yeah, right.
I say that all the time.
Yeah, so I mean, I can, and there's certain circumstances where I should, but it's like I should avoid those circumstances.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So you know, I have to prepare more, and I feel like I personally, I mean, it's as much as out of concern for my guests as well. Like I just, you know, this is a high wire act, but I want to net normally so that people feel free to be totally unguarded, because they know that if we have a spaz attack, we can.
All right, guys. Woo! We did 2 hours in the studio. I gotta go grab something to eat. It's almost 9:30. Yeah, I think I'm about to go eat something and watch Game of Thrones and take my behind to bed. Yeah, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Smart and Education. We trying to get back on a better schedule. Got a bunch of projects coming up. I was discussing that earlier, that I have a paint and sip project that I need to do for my job, and I just picked up a commission, and still was trying to get this finished before next month. So I need to stay my tail in here a lot more and actually work on some of these projects, yo. Peace and respect. Till next time, guys. I'm hollering.